Hello, I'm Carwyn Jones, and welcome to this series of podcasts where I talk to the movers and shakers in the Welsh economy. What's their journey been? What are they doing now? And what does the future hold for them? And what's their view on the future for Wales? I'm delighted to be joined today by Lisa Lucas, who is the Senior Research Officer at the University of Wales Trinity St David and in charge of the Made Wales project, of which more later. Lisa, you're very welcome indeed.
Thank you.
Now, if we look at your history, you went to what was then Swansea Met, of course. Now you do TSD and you studied tourism management there.
I did, yes. It was Swansea Institute of Higher Education, actually, at the time when I was there. So I've been there through a number of changes in name. Yeah, so I did my degree in tourism management. I actually had two other universities as my preferred options. But
Say that now, you're working.
I know. But they won me over. Won me over. It was the open day that did it.
So what were the others?
Cardiff.
Oh.
And I was also looking at Aston University as
Aston.
well. Yes. But it was the open day that won me over. I think the passion that came across from the academics on that programme, but more importantly, the work placements was what really got me hooked, thinking that actually, whilst it's about the student lifestyle and the experience that brings, I do actually want a job at the end of this. So it was a quite a big selling point at that for me, that they had all those options of work placements that we could take advantage of as students. So that's what won me over, I guess.
You get your degree and then you do a PGCE. Not perhaps the most obvious
no.
pathway for somebody with a degree in tourism. What was the reason behind that?
There were a few steps in between, actually. I actually met my now husband whilst studying the degree. So we couldn't decide where to go, so we decided to stay in Swansea as we met there. When I graduated, I did a bit of work for an events company, which I really enjoyed. And I also went in to become a assistant manager in sports retail. And I loved the management side of it. I loved the customer service side of it, but it just wasn't really for me. I felt like I wanted a different challenge. And so I saw a job advertised actually for the university. It was actually an admin post in the registry department. So it was actually a sort of reduced pay and reduced in the sense of the roles and responsibilities. But I had such a positive experience of the university and I loved their ethos and what they were about that I kind of knew I wanted to be part of that. So I suppose I took a gamble and thought, well, it's a foot in the door. So I worked in registry for a little while and it paid off. Some of my previous lecturers spotted me there one day at the desk. And he had a job opening on a European project that he was working on. So I applied for that and got that. And I worked on that then for a number of years. And over that period went from a sort of project officer to actually managing the subsequent project then. And that project involved doing a lot of training for companies. And I really enjoyed that. So that sort of made me think, right, lecturing might be a really good option. I was doing guest lecturing for some of my colleagues in the department at that point as well. And I loved it. I loved developing the content. I loved, setting assignments that I felt were, industry appropriate, which is what I would have wanted, as a student. But yeah, I don't know, I just felt like there was so much going on across the university that I wanted to know more about, that I was eager to be more involved in the wider context, really.
You spent 2 years as a project manager and then 11 years as business development manager.
Yep.
And this year you were appointed Senior Research Officer with responsibility for managing the collaborations with SMEs and delivering the MADE project.
That's right.
We'll come on to that in a second. Made Wales is a suite of EU-funded projects delivered by the University of Wales Trinity St David, of course, St David's, through its Centre for Advanced Batch Manufacture, tailor-made for Welsh SMEs and individuals to plug into the power of disruptive technologies in order to boost productivity. Go through that and see what we make of that. So, first of all, what the listeners will want to know is, what is the Centre for Advanced Batch Manufacture?
Okay, so it's our research centre within the university, and the guys there have sort of been in this field for a number of years, 20 plus years in some cases, and I think where their real niche is that it's, whilst they've got expertise and access to a lot of technologies that, can really move companies on in terms of the research that they're able to do, I think because they've been doing this a long time, they have a real backlog and library of things that they've worked on, and it's more creatively how they use that technology to problem solve and create solutions for companies. So it's a really, really great centre. They do things from medical implants to automotive parts to, it varies substantially sort of from one product or one project to the next. So we're really tapping into those expertise using this project.
At some point, the word disruptive got positive connotations, didn't it, as opposed to negative in the past? But we understand disruptive as meaning looking at new ways of doing things, pretty much, isn't it? And new technologies and how to capitalise on that if you're an SME. We know what the theory is behind Made Wales. In terms of how it operates,
yes.
I mean, first of all, if we look at what the project is, who's part of the project, and what the aims of the project are, and then perhaps we can look at some of the practical examples of what the project's delivered. And how long is the project for?
3 years and 5 years. There's two streams to the project, but 3 years and 5 years.
So if we look at the project, if you were to sum up to somebody what the project is trying to do, how would you sum it up?
Well, the stream that I'm working on in particular, so there's sort of three streams, I guess, to the project. There's the one that I'm working on, which is advanced design engineering, and that's about not only collaborating on accessing and understanding how you could use these new technologies in your manufacturing processes, but also taking those companies on a journey where hopefully they're then adopting those themselves. So it's not just doing something for them, it's working with them to understand this, new opportunity and new possibilities that perhaps weren't available 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and then taking that a step further and saying, actually, well, are you in a position to now we know this works for you, can you embed this and adopt this in the company yourselves?
So a little bit like, I suppose, an incubator in a sense. This is what's available. How can it be applied to you?
I guess so. And it's de-risking it for them a little bit as well, because, a lot of what we were finding was a lot of companies are, either thinking they should go down this route and therefore spending a lot of money and a lot of time in purchasing, equipment, trying things out and not quite understanding or getting it right, because actually they're trying to do that on top of the day job of running a business as well. That, we're saying, well, these guys have expertise in this, use their expertise, use their knowledge, use the technology in a meaningful way and work with us for us to help you find solutions for your project, for your product or your market that, should prove it works first for you. Once you know it works, you've got the business case then to take that forward and try and adopt it in-house.
I mean, that's a good model.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of how that's worked in practice? So, this is early days.
Yes, it is. It is early days.
What sort of projects? Not naming anybody. What sort of projects are you working on?
Okay, so the project is split up into three steps. We're focusing on stage one at the moment, and stage one is very much a sort of bespoke needs analysis with the company. We felt this was really important because some companies, this is European funding, so we have to use it responsibly, first of all. But some companies are perhaps not in a position to then exploit that new knowledge that they might gain yet. There may be steps before that they would need to do. So, at that point, we would use that opportunity to really understand where the best impact these projects could have. And it may be that at that point, we actually would refer them to the Welsh Government Innovation Specialists for some support through the SMART programme, or there may be other projects such as Astute that's a better fit. So we don't just want to take it just because they're interested in it and it ticks a box. We want to really make sure that this is going to work, for them. If they come back through the collaborative needs analysis and we identify a project there, then we move them on to stage two, which is the actual collaborative project. So the company, along with our expertise in the research centre, would work together then collaboratively on that project. And then, like I say, moving on to stage three, then if the company decide, actually, this has worked, this has proved to be very beneficial, I'd like to now adopt this within the company, we have, a support network in place to help them do that.
So if they were to find that a particular process was beneficial,
yes,
you said there's a support network. What does that involve? Is it marketing? Is it what?
Yeah,
what
it's
look
at
like?
this stage 3 is quite open because we're still sort of at the stage 1 at this point, as being early on in the process. But already what we're seeing is some of them who are now coming on to stage 2 are finding that some of the technology, such as 3D printing or vacuum casting, is a better, more cost-effective, quicker way of doing things for them. So already the company is thinking about adopting that in-house. So, our team will be able to work with them to understand how that might be best integrated, where to put it, at what stage of the process, what equipment might be best to use, what support in supply chains might be available to work with them to do that. So, quite a open, but I think as we're meeting the companies and understanding what the challenges are, those things are becoming clearer as we go along, really.
So if I was a business who wanted to come along and get some support from you, do I have to be in the immediate area, or is it open to?
It's a Pan Wales initiative,
Oh,
yeah. So as long as you're, within Convergence Wales, then you're
in West Wales and the Valleys.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
So Pan Wales and SMEs we are, targeting at. So between 10 and 250 employees is the target for the ADE program. Yeah.
How many businesses have approached you so far?
We've had a fantastic response. It's difficult to say. I think at the moment we're in active discussions with, around the 20 mark, with a lot more sort of on the peripheral to follow up with. I think what's been lovely about this is we did a scoping study 18 months ago, supported by Welsh Government, where we went out and interviewed 20, 30 maybe companies in Wales, manufacturers from food, automotive, health, to understand what the challenges were. So when we applied for the funding, we were going in asking for what we knew they already wanted. So it's been fantastic from a business development and engaging people in the project, because actually you're going to them with the solution that they wanted, rather than trying to sell them something that perhaps they're not quite understanding the need for. So it's been really positive, and we're in a really, really, really good response.
Okay. In terms of the support that's available, you mentioned earlier on the people who are there to provide that support.
Yeah.
Give us an idea of what sorts of people are involved in terms of the support and the mentoring, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, okay. So you've got, there's myself and my colleague Luca, who sort of deal with the projects from start to finish, and managing that process. And we've then got a team of 4 in the research centre that have dedicated time to spend on these projects. And obviously we've got all the support around that in terms of admin and finance and compliance, which is very important for European projects. We'll then make it as less onerous in that sense for the companies as we possibly can. And yeah, we still also work very closely with the faculty as well in the university. So, we're not going to be in a situation where we say, oh, right, great, that's a good fit for this project, but actually all those other challenges you're having, we're just going to ignore those because they're not within the project remit. We've actually got a really good relationship with the faculty where we are cross-referring and joining up the activities. So really the support network is as big as the expertise we've got in the university.
You mentioned earlier on that the scheme is 3 years or 5 years.
Yes.
Are there 2 different schemes?
Yes,
so streams, I suppose?
Yes, yeah. That's right. So the ADE program I just mentioned, which is ERDF, is about accessing technology, and it's about collaborative R&D. That's the essence of that project. We've also got another stream of funding, ESF funding, which is about upskilling. So that's a bespoke sort of master's program that we've developed for the sector in upskilling around Industry 4 and around innovation management as well. So that's the 5-year program that's available.
And do you have any targets in terms of how many businesses you'd look to help in the
We do.
The time period of...
Yeah, we do. So we are targeted with 70 companies for stage 1, of which 50 of those will go on to stage 2, and at least 20 of those will go on to stage 3. And we're, quietly optimistic that we will not only meet but overachieve on those targets with the response that we've had to date.
Your responsibility personally is managing the collaborations with SMEs. What does that involve day to day?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when I first took on a business development role within the university, it was through a HEFCU funded project actually at the time, the Dragon Innovation Partnership, where we worked with Swansea University and, prior to the merger, Swansea Met and Trinity. And I think I learned the hard way, actually, that what we did as universities typically was we had an offer and we went out on the road to try and sell that offer. And whilst I think it was important that we did a lot of legwork in getting businesses to understand that actually a university is a business resource and quite a good business resource, we weren't really matching those resources and opportunities together very well. I think what we were doing was, there are KTPs that you can apply for, and a company's thinking, what does KTP stand for and how do I go about that? Or there's internships or there's student projects, and it almost overwhelmed them with too much information. So I think what I've learned as time's gone on is actually it starts with the company and it starts with the challenges that they're having. So my ethos has always been, and what seems to be working well, is that you need to build a relationship with that company and really fully understand exactly what challenges they are facing. And then actually it's my job to find out where the best person, the best piece of equipment, the best pot of funding, and make that process. And I love that part of the job. That's the bit that, gets me really interested, really.
You used the word bespoke earlier on in
Yeah.
terms of the advice that you gave.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it was the case probably about 9-10 years ago now. I'd often have businesses say to me, well, it's a bit difficult to work with universities because
Absolutely.
they will come to us with a project.
Yep.
Or we'll say to them, it's roughly what we're looking for, but it needs really a bit of changing here and there, and the project just needs to be a little bit different. And then the response they get from the university would be, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Academic freedom, and so take it or leave it. And that was a common complaint. Not now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I think things have changed enormously since then. And to hear you say that it's a bespoke offer, not this is the project, try and make yourself fit into that,
Definitely.
rather than the other way around, is very encouraging for businesses.
Yes. Yeah, and I think governments and funding bodies have definitely had a impact in that, and that's really good, because they're actually the outcomes of funding now for universities is, yes, it's about the research, but actually it's about the impact that research is having. And it may be fantastic research that you're asking to do, but if that's not going to deliver a real impact at the end, then they're not necessarily funding it anymore. And I think that's really, really positive for all of us. And, it's nice that that's happening, and we're seeing that more and more now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was driven originally by some of the polys when they became universities, because they were so used to dealing with businesses that they just saw it as a natural progression.
Yeah.
And I think there was a reluctance in some of the older universities to get a bit too close to business. We need an arm's length relationship. That's not what we're here for.
Agree.
And it's changed completely in that time.
And obviously we were one of those. West Glamorgan, Swansea Institute of Higher Education, Swansea Met, UWTSD. We've changed names, but our roots have remained the same. And you only have to look at the sort of degree apprenticeships now. We've had academics delivering programs, 42 weeks of the year on a Friday at 7-8 o'clock at night. There's not many academics in other universities that would work until 7 o'clock on a Friday in August, but it's not unknown now, and it's not come as a shock to the system for us, because it's something that we've always done.
So, a working life in the university.
Yes.
So far. What does the future hold for Lisa Lucas?
I still think there's room to do a lot more. I think particularly in the field we're in now with manufacturing, I think, all the ingredients are there, that, the funding's there, the universities and the research centres are fired up, and certainly the feedback from the scoping study suggests that the companies are raring to go and really wanting to do this. I still think there's a lot of joining up to do, and cohering that activity and collaborating more and doing more. I'd love to be part of that bigger picture, where it's going.
I'm going to ask a cheeky question now, but I've asked it to everybody else.
Yes.
You've got 2 small children.
I have.
7 and 3. Yeah. Work-life balance.
Yeah, not easy. Not easy. I wouldn't say otherwise. But I think I've been fortunate enough that I've got a good employer in, flexible working is accepted and promoted. And again, my line manager is the same. I think the ethos now for us, it's particularly on the project, is that you work to deliver an output. And actually, as long as you're delivering that output, I've learned that actually I can do that sat at my desk in the office, or I can do it sat at my kitchen table with the children playing in the background. And I think technology's played a massive part in that as well. I'm able to pick up documents, Skype, phone, and, I can have a meeting with a company in North Wales sat at my computer rather than having to drive and spend overnight. So I think I've probably been fortunate in that these things have happened in, my time of having children. I'm sure I wouldn't be where I am and doing what I'm doing maybe 10 years ago if that was the case.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think there's been a tendency in years gone by to associate productivity with being in an office.
Absolutely.
And it's not the way it works. As you know, you can be just as productive. And when my kids came along, I didn't take any leave at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was straight back to work. It just, and this is only 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It just, fathers didn't take time off. My wife had leave, but I mean, it was just accepted that you just didn't do it. And at times it changed for the better.
Absolutely.
I've got to say, since then,
yeah.
we've realised that there's more to life than work.
Absolutely, and you can do it both. You can do it both.
Oh yeah, no question about that.
Yeah.
It's those of us brought up, who sort of came of age in the 80s were infected with this sort of, Gordon Gekko style thing. You've got to be, in work all the time. And it's a macho thing if you're a man, a macho thing. And thankfully that's changed.
Yes.
And, I very much welcome that. So, final question. Imagine we're sitting here in 10 years' time. Okay. I hope I'm still alive. If I was to say to you, what changes would you like to see in the Welsh economy? I mean, we can use your own example if you want, or more widely, in the next 10 years. What do you think we need to do?
I think, looking at the area I suppose I'm focused on now, when it comes to manufacturing and supporting that sector, I mean, it's such an important sector for us as a country. And I think whilst I've worked, across the university in a business development role and touched on things, I do still feel quite passionate about that sector. So I'd like to stay within that sort of area. And I think for me, it's about, making the supply chains in that area far more resilient and able to support because at the moment the larger companies are doing a lot of this, but the support doesn't seem to be there for the supply chains. And I think if we can join all that up and if we can support them in doing that, then we're going to be in a really good place. And personally, I'd love to be a part of that. So.
Excellent. Lisa Lucas, Senior Research Fellow at the University of Wales, Trinity St David. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
It's been great to have you.
Thank you.